Welcome back, everybody, to Real Time for the Real Everyday Movie Fan. I am Josh Williams.
And I'm James Sheridan.
Thank you guys so much for joining us here today because we are here. You clicked on the video to give you our real-time spoiler review of The Last of Us Part 2, Episode 3. Now, man, this one hit a little different.
We have to remind everyone that we will do our best to avoid spoiling the games, but anything that's happened in the show up until this point is fair game.
Fair game.
If you have not watched the episode before this,
Why are you here?
stop now, go back, because that one is an important one, and this one is the follow to that. So please go back.
Yes,
really
please.
important that you do not spoil yourself for the events of this season.
Yeah, because let's be real. Let's be real, James. This one hit pretty hard. We're coming down sort of from the shock value the shock that was Joel being beaten to death, and oh man. So before we get into that, guys, I just reminded myself. Before we get into that, guys, please be sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, so you receive all of our great content for you here on Real Time. All right, we got that spiel out the way. Let's dive into this, James. I want to talk. We need to talk about it. So, not a whole lot of action right now. We're just coming off of the reels of not only Joel dying, but tons of people in the town dying from the zombies, which was also Abby's fault in a sense, indirectly. Because
I'm not going to pin that on her necessarily. I think that horde was going to be.
Do you think they're going to be automated because they discovered
anyway?
the cordyceps?
Well, not just the cordyceps, but the horde just kind of coming for that town was an eventuality.
Okay.
And it just happened to be that the circumstances of these events led to it happening sooner than later, kind of thing. But
okay,
like come spring, that would have been just as bad, if not sooner. So
that's fair.
Anyway,
okay.
That's
okay.
We're at the point now where like we open the episode with Tommy at Joel's corpse, cleaning it, as you know, is sometimes it's sort of a ritual for those who have survived, and we as the audience are relating to this moment because it's painful and heartfelt, and we've just lost, you know, one of the most important characters in the series. So much so that when the credits rolled, they did the whole opening, and it was the first time that Ellie's character in the intro was by herself.
Yep.
You only had the lone figure there. You didn't have the two of them walking together.
Oh, that was so really hard to see.
And then they pull out, and you just start to realize the scope of just the amount of damage that's been done.
Yeah.
As you see all the other corpses there, and you remind yourself that while we're mourning Joel, this is an entire town mourning many people's losses.
Yep. But to me, I think obviously I think it hits hard. It hits different because Joel was killed by people, not by a mindless horde of zombies. Now,
which is something that does kind of come into play, especially when we get into the town hall sort of debate about where they're going, what they're going to do as a town. But I still think, like, a death is a death is a death. It doesn't matter how I mean, sometimes it does matter how the person died, but I think the people who are mourning their loved ones are just as hurt as you know, the situation with Ellie and whatnot. The only difference really with Ellie and Tommy and Dina is that this was a murder.
Yep.
So there's a degree of intent, whereas the other one is sort of just a force of nature.
Yep. It's like a tornado coming through.
Basically, and you can't really be mad at the tornado. It's just what the tornado does.
Exactly.
And that's just sort of what the infected do.
Yep.
Whereas we're stuck in this situation of these people that we know are close to Joel having to deal with the repercussions of his death, and everybody kind of anticipating what Ellie's going to do. And the creators of the show specifically stated that they wanted to kind of diverge from the game, where almost immediately they start to venture out for their revenge plot, whereas this one there's sort of a 3-month cooling off period because they wanted Ellie to have the time to sort of sit in that grief, and she is unbudged by what's happening, which means that she is still determined to do this.
I love
And
that
there's a great
scene with
moment.
her. I love that scene with the shrink. It's like, and the shrink's like, "Yep, nothing wrong with you though." And she's like, "Oh yeah, yep, I'm good." And I was like, but real quick before we go past that, one of the things I loved about that scene with Joel and Tommy, even just shot wise, like we've seen in the show many times, where they have some really unique and incredible shots, like camera movements and just like scope of composition and everything. It looks gorgeous, right? This one was so simplistic, and I think they did it on purpose because they wanted you just to feel the moment. You know what I mean? Yeah. And this part, honestly, the part that got me the most out of this whole show, besides the moment with Ellie and Joel's clothes in the closet,
I was going to say the jacket got me more.
Besides that, this one actually got me a little bit more for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe it's because of, I have a daughter or something. I don't know. But when Tommy looks at the watch and then goes, "Say hi to Sarah for me," or "Give Sarah my love." Oh my God, I about broke down. I was like, I about broke down crying. It hit so hard. It hit so different. Because it takes you all the way back to the first episode, and it's like, oh man. But sorry.
More than that, it's also Tommy. Those two were the only family Tommy had. I mean, now he's got his own family, but it's like for years that was his family, and then his niece was taken from him, and then he had this long-standing sort of like, not feud, but like him and his brother weren't seeing eye to eye for a long time, and then they're finally reunited, and within a couple years he's now gone, and it's like all of Tommy's bloodline prior to his life now is gone.
Yep.
Nobody left.
Basically, his life pre zombie apocalypse is gone now. Like everything pre zombie apocalypse is gone. That's pretty heartbreaking.
You're right that saying "say hi to Sarah for me," or I don't remember the exact line, but
it was "Give Sarah my love." Give Sarah. I remember now. It was "Give Sarah my love," and that's what I was like. Oh, it hits so different and hard.
Whereas I'm not a father, so I can't relate so much on that. But I have lost sort of elder family members, and there are moments where, especially in TV and film, they love to have this sort of moment where somebody finds the clothing of a dead one, and like just the smell, because smell is such a powerful reminder of things, and like memory is so intertwined with the sense of smell, and something a lot of people who lose loved ones say is like, we're losing the smell, his smell or her smell, and it's like her holding that jacket. I felt that one. I especially kind of expected to see just like it's sort of like blood soaked and whatnot, because you got beaten pretty badly, but her crying after that one choked me up.
Yeah, and like her standing in the closet, just like holding his shirt, like oof.
Yeah,
it hit pretty rough, and so those scenes were really great, just very simplistic. Because I love when you can do that. You don't have to have any fancy camera movements. It's all about the acting. It's all about the moment and feeling it, and just letting yourself absorb it. And just
hang in that moment.
Yeah, and it works so well. Like the director and cinematographer did such a superb job with those scenes of just making us feel that without forcibly making us. You know what I mean? Because like you've seen certain movies and TV shows where like they're kind of ushering you to, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know how to explain. Like, they're almost forcing you to be like, "Hey, cry at this spot." You know what I mean? Like, they do certain techniques that do that, everyone does it. I'm guilty of done it before for certain films, but that I've done before in the past, so short films. But for this one, it just they relied on the acting and the simplicity of the moment and the story that they've given us to let us just feel it ourselves. And it was so well done.
And the buildup of the walkthrough of the empty house and just like the life he left behind. And that's another thing that you see a lot is the people who are mourning the person that they love just existing in the same space that person once existed in, and not only feeling their absence, but seeing, the last kind of place that world existed in, kind of thing. So like you know, left a cup in the sink or something, or, you know, kicked off the shoes that were just a little muddy still and hadn't cleaned that up yet, or, you know, there's still laundry in the hamper. And it's like the everyday life stuff that we all take for granted, or, you know, as a reminder, oh, I got to clean the place. It's like this was a person and this was their home and they lived here, they existed here, and now
Yeah.
that's gone. And you kind of want to leave the place in that state just because you don't want to lose them and where they existed. So that whole sequence of Ellie walking through the house and then finally breaking down over the jacket was just beautifully done. It's her going through the stuff and finding the gun and the watch. I kept wanting her to put on the watch, but then I was reminded that the watch meant something to Joel because it was from his daughter. It doesn't mean anything to Ellie other than that it was Joel's kind of thing. So it doesn't have the same impact. Whereas for us, the audience, we know that connection to the daughter. So it has it had a bigger impact for me than it does for Ellie. Whereas the gun is very much in line with where the story is going next. Which
we know it.
Segue into, because there is that wonderful. Everybody's kind of knowing what's going to happen next. Everyone knows that Ellie's not just going to sit by. And there's a couple wonderful scenes that kind of build that story and whatnot. First of all, like her being trapped for 3 months, not being able to leave there and just being energetic to leave. And then Dina kind of spilling her soul as to like, I know who they are. I know where they are. And I didn't tell you because you needed to heal. And I knew that the second I told you, you would go crawling out of bed, ripping tubes out of your arms and body and whatnot, because she was intubating through the ribs and whatnot. And it's like, you needed to rest and you needed to heal. And the story needs you to process this stuff. But then Dina also ends up being her greatest ally, where there's that other scene where like Ellie's clearly leaving.
She's going no matter what.
And Dina comes in and like, so is this like all guns? Do you have like any medical supplies, any food, anything of value? And it's like, she pulls out a map and she's got like a list of plans. And it's like, we need to like pack light. We need to have these specific things. We need to have this much ammunition. We need to have this and that. And it's like,
and I love that
Ellie's not a planner. Ellie's a doer. And she doesn't stop to think about things long enough to actually put together a strategy, which is often what gets her in trouble. But Dina is like
the opposite end of that.
Yeah, and I love that relationship between the two of them.
Same here, and I love Isabela Merced. She did that scene with them at the table was very good. Very subtle acting, very subtle like conversation between the two of them. Because she really cared for what's that?
The non-communication
with the cookies,
things, like the bit of the cookies where they push it back, like pushes it to Ellie, and she bites into one, and then Ellie sort of not quite forgiving her, but like just sort of like
it's like this is helping.
And then passes it back to her, and she bites into a cookie, and I love that like unspoken sort of
and that part too, but it's just the subtlety too, because how much she loved and cared about Joel. That I feel like she was gonna do this no matter what. Anyway, it's just she was smart and strategic about it. Like to me, Ellie's like a bull in a china shop, just wants to rush in and do it. Whereas Dina is much more methodical, which works well for both of them. You know,
and let's face it, Ellie being that bull in the china shop is often to people's advantage, but you need to think ahead a little bit, and she's not so good at that stuff.
Which was actually very good when it came to the town hall meeting. That I almost thought when she would hear like I feel like I almost felt like she was going to come prepared, like she was told. But then she would hear other people saying no, don't do this, and she would just get pissed off. But I think what helped that scene, which was very smart on the director's part, because to me logically, as a writer, that would make sense. If it wasn't for that guy stepping up, I forgot the actor's name.
Seth. It's Robert John Burke.
Yeah, I feel like as a writer, that was smart for them to include him in that spot, to kind of almost redeem himself a little bit for what he said at the party, but also it seems like it's in line with his character. But to have him do that,
even more than that, before that moment, they have this other woman stand up and say, "We all love Joel, but we cannot afford. We are still rebuilding, and we cannot afford right now to be sending all of these people out vital, important people who are here to, guard and protect us, those of us who can't do it ourselves, you're not going to send out our best to go for a revenge plot when we're still rebuilding. And I feel like the setup of that right before Seth going off on a tirade about, they'll just hit back at us again because we're weak and because we didn't go after them. Seth being her strongest ally while also planting that seed of doubt in everyone's mind was so important to the vote that would eventually happen. And the other thing I really liked about that sequence was that it was so not Ellie to come in with that plan. And I know Jesse gave her the idea that you need to come in with sort of a pre-written statement, because if you go in there speaking angry, you're not going to motivate them. And then Seth kind of ended up proving that by speaking angry. But it also lit a fire under Ellie. And I kind of love that she sees Jesse's point and goes in there with the intention of trying to
persuade them,
not with anger, but with an actual plan and whatnot. And it's so against her type, and then it kind of blows up in her face, and it kind of like reaffirms her sort of, I need to go and do this myself. And I love the sort of buildup of those three sort of different perspectives right before the vote, where the vote really doesn't go away. And it's not even like a close vote. It was something like 8-3. And it's like, they are not going to help us, and I need to go and do this myself. And I think she knew that from the beginning, is that she needed to go and do this by herself.
Yep. And we saw this coming from, because we've played the games and whatnot. But what got me, because I don't remember this from the game, but Jesse talking all that stuff, come prepared. I went back and because there's a point where you see Jesse handing off his piece of paper, and you can kind of see through it. I went back and checked it like a couple times and slowed down. It looks like there's an N right there, and I think he voted no on it, which would really piss me off, honestly, as an audience member. Someone who's supposed to.
Yes and no, because he's also they very much established that he is very much a rules, like a guy who lives by the rules and whatnot, and that's why he's part of the council. That's why he's in a leadership position. Is that he's her friend, but at the same time, I don't think he's voting no for the sake of the town. I think he's voting no to protect her, because there's also this sort of lingering idea throughout the series, especially with him sort of not living in Joel's shadow, but he looked up to and admired Joel. And even from the first or second episode, it was clear that he kind of saw his position as one where, he needed to protect Ellie too. He needed to kind of follow Joel's lead on that. And the podcast talked about this a little bit too, where they said the voice actor for Joel from the games is the host of the podcast. I'm Troy Baker. And he was saying how he figured that Tommy also voted no, because Tommy was trying to protect her as well.
Really? Well, I don't know, because
shut him down.
Well, I don't know, because I feel like
and
he would.
Said, you're
feel
wrong.
Huh?
Craig Mazin immediately shut him down and said, "You're wrong."
Yeah.
Tommy
okay.
absolutely voted yes, and I'm like, I would kind of like it more if he voted no as well.
I liked that he voted yes, just because. Now, I feel like he did vote yes because we don't know for sure yet, because this could definitely deviate from everything. But I think he voted yes. The only reason, because I think it's good on the actor that in this moment, did you notice when people were starting to leave, he looked like he was about to jump out of his skin and ream the council. You saw the acting of Gabriel Luna, it was perfect, because I went back and rewatched it, because he looked like his eyes swelled up and looked around at the council, and as people were leaving, he seriously looked like he's about to jump out of his skin and scream at them. He really did. Yeah, and so to me, I feel like he did vote yes.
Yeah,
and
he also promised her that he would help her, and it would be very out of character for him to do that and then vote no. But at the same time,
now I do believe is his wife voted no.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
Wife for sure voted no.
Yeah,
So.
no, and I I don't recall this part of the game as much, but I seem to recall that she was very opposed to Ellie going because she knew that it's very likely that at some point Tommy's going to follow her.
Right.
Which, you know,
It's gonna
again,
happen.
not spoiling anything in
Not spoiling
game,
anything, but
um,
you can just see it. How you see the trajectory on it. Honestly.
yeah. Which leads us to, of course, the later scene where Ellie and Dina are actually at the gate and ready to go, and out of nowhere comes Seth
Yeah.
with sort of this concession of, first of all, my gun's better than yours.
Yep.
Second of all, the lady who is in charge of the stables was also on your side, and we made sure to pack your saddlebags with a bunch of supplies that you'll need.
Which is really cool.
And then he does one step even further, even cooler than that, and holds out his hand and sort of not even friendship, just sort of like
Kind of a
I
peace
agree with you at
offering.
this point. Yeah, and Ellie sort of, even though she still a bitch about this, still terrible to him. And I kind of don't blame her because, of course, he was, completely disgustingly homophobic to her.
Right.
But he's at least reaching out, and she sort of concedes and
Kind of shakes his hand
in
too,
return.
and like, yeah, just kind of goes along with it.
And I have no illusions that she's, going to see it as a friendship or anything, but
No.
it's still sort of like a bit of a thank you.
Yeah, not at all. No, not at all. But at the same time, it just shows that she's like, okay, I still don't like you, but I really appreciate this kind of thing, which is really cool. Now, coming back, going as they're going along with the journey here, which I found was a very interesting plant and payoff. Is a very interesting way of doing it. Is that group, and I feel like
Wolf?
they were a very interesting group of people, and I kind of wanted to explore them more, but obviously that doesn't happen because like they all had Glasgow smiles, they all used hammers. Like, it's a very interesting group of people, and I thought maybe we'd explore them a little bit more. Like maybe they'd cross paths with Ellie and Dina. Nope. Like
Well,
that was, huh?
they kind of did.
They yeah. Oh gosh. That's all. Come on, James. I mean, yeah, technically they did, but they weren't
Am I
alive.
No, but I don't want to go too deep into that group because they, again, without spoiling things, they do play a role. I don't think that's saying too much just because they are so sort of vaguely set up.
Yeah.
That it kind of implies that there's going to be more to them. Like you said, we get so much of a hint of them, but we don't get like the
Get to know
group
them.
name or what their sort of mission is, or they just talk about their profits and their sort of philosophy and whatnot. So it's interesting to see where that will go. The other one that really kind of, speaking of groups, the one that kind of they end this show on, this episode on, is the buildup of the Washington Liberation Front, otherwise known as the Wolves.
Yep.
Which Dina kind of supposes, based on the size of the group they met,
They're not
and
that
the
big.
fact that they haven't heard of them, that they're not that big of a group. But when we get to the end and we're finally at Seattle, and you just see how big their patrol groups are, which it's supposed to leave us with a sense of dread, but at the same time, like, I don't feel like Dina and Ellie are going to be in. I mean, they're obviously going to be in danger. That's part of the show, but I think that them being a sort of small group, a group of two, is actually going to be to their advantage because
Definitely.
one, they're going to be a lot more sort of stealthy, and they'll be able to slip by patrols a lot easier, especially if they ditch the horse, which will be heartbreaking. But I'm not as scared about them as I am other groups. Now, of course, that's not to say they won't be a danger, they won't be a threat. Very obviously, they're going to be a threat. That's obviously where this is going.
Right.
Especially if you've seen the tease for next week, and the character that they're kind of hinting towards, which again, not going to spoil anything, not going to go into details, but it's going to get interesting from here on out. I just think that Ellie and Dina are going to be at an advantage to be just a group of 2 as opposed to a group of 12 or 16 as they wanted.
Now, here's my question to you. Because I'm not sure, because again, I don't remember the scene with that group of people that Ellie and Dina came across that were all murdered. I don't remember from the game, so this is obviously new territory.
They are from the game.
Oh, but does that scene from the game? I don't remember seeing that scene.
No, I think what they're doing is just, I mean, maybe it is. I don't remember that part of the game, but I do know that these characters do play a role.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not the one specifically we saw, but this group will play a role, and actually kind of an important one later on.
Yeah, no, I remember that part.
I get the feeling that they're trying to establish them in a way that they haven't established them in the game. Right. Kind of like what they did with Abby at the very beginning by having her by the graveside before they started their journey.
Right. Because my question is to you, do you think the wolves did it? Or do you think it was another group?
I can't answer that.
I guess you can.
I know the answer.
I mean, do you think it's the same answer that... I mean, I know what answer we're talking about, but do you think they're going to deviate and maybe try something different?
No.
No? Okay.
No. Okay. I think they're very clearly setting up a secondary conflict that's going to be a good chunk of the story from here on out.
Okay.
That is kind of going to be a roadblock for many of the characters. But again,
and interesting enough,
I don't want to say stuff without...
No, yeah, of course. But let's get to the part I thought was very interesting at the ending of the show, because I thought after we saw, what's his name, the one that was really the douchiest one of them all,
Seth.
Yeah, not Seth. Abby's group, the kid who was on watch.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I forgot his name already.
I think it was Manny or something.
Yeah, I think so. When I saw him, I was like, "Ooh, maybe we're gonna get a catch of Abby or something." Surprisingly enough, we didn't, which I thought was a very interesting move on their part to not even include her in that group of people that patrol. At the very least, you know what I mean? Kind of seeing like, oh, she's still here, kind of thing. So I thought that was a very interesting strategy to use to kind of still keep her hidden away a little bit. At least I'm sure we'll see her next episode, but for some reason I felt like after seeing him and confirming that the group is there, storyline wise, that you would catch a glimpse at least of her on that patrol. So the fact that we didn't was I don't know, it's a very interesting strategy, I guess, on the writer's part.
I mean, I assume that some of the group that went out to find Joel would return to Wolf, and then some of them may not have.
Right.
And maybe there's a reason we don't see certain people in that group. I mean, it's also very much intended to be a large army of basically faceless people, which is why we see most of them from the back.
Right.
Whereas Manny, we already have sort of a relationship with in terms of like, we know this character to a degree, and sort of catching up with him and seeing, that they are connected with this group again, and maybe not the most respected people within the group.
Yeah, I have actually a theory. I'm gonna put it here on the show now, because for everyone who's watching, if you played the game, you know the order in which of who they kill in what order, like as far as that group. I think the writer of course he's the writer of the show. I think they're going to go out of order just to help keep people who have played the game almost on their own toes, in a sense. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I think that, at least for me, that would be cool and smart, because that way, yes, people of the game it helps them not to know what to expect. It helps actually enjoy the show almost enjoy the experience over again of that revenge quest, to kind of do it out of order a little bit. And so that's my theory. We'll see if I'm right by the end of the season. At least if we get to any of those deaths. Because let's be real, for people who haven't seen the game and are just watching the show, Ellie's gonna kill some of them. We just don't know who. It's gonna happen. Come on, let's be real here, folks. It's gonna happen. but we don't know who. And I think if people who are fans of the game and watching like us, I think at least for me, it would be smart to do them out of order to help keep us guessing and help us to almost re-enjoy what was so great in a sense of story-wise, because it gets to some dark moments. Trust me, we're getting to some real, oh man. But just to experience that over, you know what I'm saying? Like to experience that journey over again in a fresh new way.
Mm-hmm.
So, any more last thoughts for you before we head off of this one?
I mean, I could go on and on about all kinds of little bits here and there, scenes and whatnot. There was a great scene with Tommy and Catherine O'Hara's character in the baseball field, and kind of establishing that she doesn't trust Ellie. Ellie's a liar, and Tommy tries to stand up for her, but she her being a psychiatrist, psychologist, I don't remember which, but is able to kind of cut through the shit and see who Ellie really is, kind of thing. And I kind of like her insight into some of that, and relating to her, you know, there's still some stuff in the past that we haven't covered yet that I'm very excited to get to. And one particular flashback in particular, which I've been kind of teasing from the first episode, but just because it means so much for certain characters. But I'm trying to keep these shorter, and I just keep babbling on. So.
That's okay. No, well, overall, this was a great episode. I mean, wasn't much.
It's funny because there was no action in this story, and it's very much just all character and setting up the new plot threads for where we go post the death of Joel, kind of thing, which a lot of people would find slower. And, you know, again, reaching back to our Daredevil episodes, it was this kind of like slow pacing that really kind of killed that show for me. Whereas here, I don't feel that. Here, I'm enjoying these moments because I don't know, I felt like there was so much more care put into the character and setting things up and just building and laying seeds. And of course, I know where this story's going as opposed to not knowing where Daredevil was going, but and not to just keep harping on that one, but it's just an interesting juxtaposition between the two of them, where it's like, this one I'm so into, and the other one it was just sort of like week after week of where are you going? And this one is just sort of like, I don't care where you're going, just spend more time here. I'm just so comfortable in this moment, or so uncomfortable, but enjoying how you're making me uncomfortable, which sounds more kinky than I meant it to, but I think you know what I'm saying.
Oh yeah, for sure. No, I'm enjoying this show so much so far, and I can't wait for next week to see, because now we have that big old. That's just one patrol. You know, can you imagine just how many people are they going to be coming across? Like they're thinking, oh, there's just going to be a few people. You know, you're about to have your eyes opened up. But all right, folks, that'll do it for today. Thank you so much for watching. What did you think of The Last of Us Episode 3? Leave your comments in the section below. Let us know your favorite parts. What moment got you? Which moment did you cry the most at or tear up the most at? Let me know in the comment section below. Also, if you like what you watch, you like to be provided, please be sure to subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell to receive all of our great content here. Yep, you heard it from my daughter right there. Subscribe to the button on the button right there. That's all we have for today. Again, I'm Josh Williams.
And I'm James Sheridan.
And thank you for keeping it real.
With Real Time. Good night.